Hello and welcome back to YellowCard Vanguard's weekly wrap-up. Today is going to be a bit different. There hasn't been a lot of new card reveals for the new Bermuda set. So instead what we'll do today is actually talk about the newly revealed Tira from today's stream. This video is actually being recorded on Thursday because both Zis and Toku have prior plans to do on Friday, but we wanted to make sure that we had a video for the new Bermuda GR. Without further ado, let's just straight up talk about the new GR. So Tira is restander for Cho-Cho, but also generic. Because of that, I think she's actually very good. The fact that she refills the deck with her cost is similar to Gear Next, and we know how Gear Next's way of, hey, its cost is actually very strong towards his game plan of filtering and heavy trigger compression. And for Cho-Cho to do that at the same time, I feel is very strong. What I would hope is actually that she was a GB2, so you could combo her off with the critical trigger to give her a restanding crit. And her first skill is actually very good because even though in a generic deck she can't power up her other rear guards, being able to power up herself can be enough to actually steal the win when they're at 4 or 5 damage.
Yeah, this card's really strong. Like, at a first glance, it is a bit of a weaker Gear Next because you have a bigger cost. You have to bot deck 3 instead of just 2, and you only get 5k rather than the 10k and the +1 drive. But it still like fixes a lot of Bermuda's problems in that it gives you a stronger finisher that isn't as reliant on your rear guards. Like, sure, you have to pay the cost of putting 3 rear guards on the bottom to stand, but it's not like call rear guards and give your rear guards power like Olivia and the other ones have been so far. So I think this card's like, it will fit into anything. The cost is obviously a lot harder to pay in things like Harmony, Imprisonment, whatever, and it's obviously geared towards Shushu with the first effect. But I think that this card is still really, really strong for what it is. And as a GR, like, it means you only need like 2 or 3. I feel that bits and pieces of it are misplaced. Like, for example, the act skill just being flip anything and then it gains a power boosting skill rather than actual plus. And then the restand skill being like just GB3 on its own. It would have been nice if Bermuda could just get that restand on the first stride, but then have no drives and then a separate like GB3 or GB4 that gives it the extra drive for each of your other rear guards, for example, would have been really strong. But as it is, like, it's definitely quite good. Like, good minus.
Cho-Cho Darina. This is Cho-Cho's new 10k grade 2. Has the demerit that it can attack if you have 1 or less Cho-Cho rear guard. This is actually a semi-real demerit because sometimes you just want to ride up and attack, and if you road it and you only have 1 rear guard, that means you can't attack. Her skill is actually, I think is actually really good. The only issue is that it's very restricted to Cho-Cho, but I don't think that's an issue considering Cho-Cho itself is restricted to Cho-Cho.
Yeah, I think the rear guard, the restriction is actually really strong against the deck like Dominate. Like, it's actually amazing versus Dominate, right? Because even if they Renee you, this can't attack. So if you call down 2 of these off of the Renee, you're safe, which is amazing. As for the Act Auto skill, it's pretty solid. It's what the deck kind of wants, because it gives you a plus when something else gets bot decked rather than just another self bot decker, which the deck already has lots of. My only concern is that, yeah, you have to reveal 5 Shushus, and I think even with the new stuff, the entire deck won't be Shushu. Just because you still have like 1 or 2 cards I think you still need to play, like Shandy just for the guaranteed first stride and things like that. So it's a bit iffy, and again it costs Counterblast, which the deck still has a bit of an issue with. I think it would be nicer if it was Soul Blast instead, because there's now actually a lot less need to spam your Soul Blast costs, because effectively this would replace Blanc, which is what makes it so good. But at the end of the day, it is still a 10k grade 2 with an effect, so I think it has to be playable no matter what, even though that it has a much lower floor and a much higher ceiling.
Next up we have Shushu Irune. I think this card might be on the overtuned side of things, so I'm actually going to rate this good plus. I think both of those effects are very strong. Being able to basically act as a card that turns any of your other cards to recycle, I think that's really strong. You could couple this with Arena, and you basically have an effect that says when your card is bottom decked, draw 1, counterblast 1, +1. The second effect is also very strong, being able to turn all of your 9Ks to 11K hitters solo. Very similar to Phylax, so basically you can go on like a nice poke rampage. And I think just basically like keeping this out on the field many times and just using it for its like first effect is just super strong. Compared to other Jeffrey clones that disappear after their first effect, you can run like fewer copies of this and recycle its effect.
Yeah, I think this card is really, really strong. Like, I wouldn't say it fixes all of Shushu's problems, but it's definitely an amazing addition for what the deck wants to do. Like, the amazing thing is that before, Shushu would rely on Prairie to call off the Murits to get the extra attack, Whereas with this, you now don't need that, because you can just call it vanilla grade 2, and this will give it the 2k to 11k, as you said. So you just stick it behind a Vanguard, and it's always going to be safe, which is really amazing. Because it doesn't have to boost a rearguard, you can just bomb deck anything. So you like swing with a column, boost your Vanguard with this, get the plus, open up an empty circle for your Murits to cool something down off, and it's just like really high value all the time. So I think this card is also a good plus.
LEG guard. I think this card is playable. I see the best synergy for this surprisingly with new Aqua PG, where you can have 6 copies at first, so this G guard can actually like scale up to like over 100,000 K. I like that she's recyclable in the sense that like you can turn her over, but I also feel that's kind of anti-synergistic with herself.
I think this card's actually better than people think it is. The second effect to send herself face down is kind of irrelevant because it costs Soul Blast, and I think the deck doesn't actually have that much soul to play with. I'm talking about Harmony, which is where you would play the Aqua PG, by the way. I think decks like Shushu and Prism would love this card just because it's a recyclable G-Guard on its own. The plus 10k for each Sentinel is nice. Like, although in terms of statistical analysis, I don't think you can expect to get more than 20k off of this, like in a normal use case. But at the same time, a 35k G-Guard with no cost, it's already super amazing. So I think people are like trying too hard to get the maximum value out of this card, when even like the below average cases is still really usable.
That was it for this week's Card of the Day wrap-up.
If you enjoyed what you saw today, be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and the bell button so that you're the very first to get our new videos. Also, leave a comment below on what you think about these newly revealed cards.
And on Monday, come watch our podcast where we tie up all the cards in further detail. Thanks for watching. This has been YellowCard Vanguard, and that's it from us for now.